Get away from me, you creeps.
I was told I had 2 minutes to say goodbye. Holding his mother's hand, watching his lifeless body.
And puts a to the back of his head and
Was screaming and crying.
In an emotional courtroom scene, the father of a young boy who was beaten to death 3 years ago couldn't hold back his anger. The man responsible, the boyfriend of the boy's mother, Daniel Garcia, was sentenced to life in prison for the murder of Dominic Aguilar Acevedo. During the sentencing, several people took the stand to talk about Garcia's character, and a clear pattern emerged: a history of abuse.
He would wrestle me and put me in chokeholds and punch me in the legs.
There were times when he would come up behind me and he would put me in a chokehold.
In court, Danielle Garcia's ex-wife shared the abuse she and others suffered because of Garcia. Recently, Garcia was found guilty of beating Dominic Aguilar Acevedo to death in 2021. After the murder, Garcia and the boy's mother, Nicole Aguilar, drove to Colorado and left his body in a ravine. Aguilar accepted a plea deal and was sentenced to 15 years in prison. She revealed how Garcia also abused her daughter after Dominic's death.
He punched her in the face one time, and her eye got a little red mark on it from it. And then afterwards, when we were, when we were driving down to Costa Rica, he was being physically abusive to her as well.
Samantha, Danielle Garcia's ex-wife, also took the stand and shared detailed accounts of the alleged abuse she endured, including incidents involving their dogs.
I had expressed to him numerous times that I wasn't happy and that I had wanted to leave. And we would get into altercations about me wanting to leave.
The defense attempted to undermine both women's testimonies, questioning why they had never reported these stories to the authorities before. However, in the end, Judge William had the final say.
I hereby sentence you to a term of life imprisonment in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice Institutional Division.
Garcia has the option to appeal the sentence, but for now, this closes the case. Moving on to another tragic case, the family of 3 women murdered in their Peter Maritzburg home believes justice has been served. Nyabulo Ndlovu, who was convicted of rape and killing them, received 5 life sentences. The 29-year-old admitted to strangling and stabbing 65-year-old Zanel Ndlela and her 48-year-old daughter before raping and strangling her granddaughter. It was a heartbreaking day for the Ndlela family in court as they were faced with the brutal and careless way their loved ones were killed. The painful details were too much for some family members who left the courtroom, but when it came time for sentencing, the court delivered its judgment without hesitation.
You had no empathy or mercy when you committed these atrocious acts. You acted in disdain of their life. You stripped them, even at death, with their rights to dignity, privacy, and most importantly, their ultimate right, which is life.
In a country struggling with the issue of gender-based violence, the court made a strong statement with its verdict.
The court can only respond to the interests of society by imposing the appropriate sentences to send a clear message that these crimes are not to be countenanced. The society, as demonstrated by the number of community members that are attending this court, demand that stern sentences must be imposed for people who commit these offenses. These sentences must be imposed in order to prevent like-minded people, as the accused, from committing further offenses of this nature.
And with its verdict, 5 life terms, 1 for each crime, including murder and rape, the court made its stance clear.
Siyabonga umthetho udlalile indima yawo wathola isigwebo esimfanele umbulali, even though engeke basavuka sibuhlungu silimele, especially uzenandi kungake kwenzeka umlingo uthiwa isigwebo sontambo sesiyabuya manje sibuya ngawe Njabulo.
But the family says they are far from finding closure.
Traumatized impela nje kakhulu, abafana kakhulu abasakwazi ukulala engathi bangaphuza ngoba bathi uma bengazange baphuze abazumeki abalali, yonke into iyabuya. omunye uthe ozalwa umamzanele ufisa ngisho ukucommit suicide.
Ndlovu will be eligible for parole after serving just 25 years of his sentence. Although justice has been served, the emotional scars will remain for the Ndlela family. Christopher Moore, 18, from Chester, is charged with murder in the shooting death of Chester City Councilman Odell Williams. He appeared before Judge Diane Moore for his initial bond hearing.
They're taking pictures of you, bro, man. They respect me. Back up.
Christopher, you have two charges. You have a charge of possession of a weapon during the commission of a violent crime, which carries a penalty of 5 years in prison. You also have a warrant for murder, which carries a penalty of 30 years to life in prison or death. Both those charges go to circuit court, which means you're entitled to a preliminary hearing, which is an opportunity for a magistrate to make a decision if there's probable cause for your cases to continue to go to circuit court. If you want a preliminary hearing on these charges, you need to put your name and mailing address here and return it to me within 10 days. You want to do it now?
I'm innocent. I ain't did nothing.
Pay attention to me. The preliminary hearing will be held on March the 3rd at 9:30 in the morning. Your first appearance in circuit court is February the 5th at 9:30 in the morning. Second appearance is March the 12th at 9:30 in the morning at the Chester County Courthouse. If you're not there either one of those times, there will be a bench warrant issued for your arrest. You're entitled to an attorney. If you do not have an attorney, one can be provided for you. You would need to take your bond papers to Sue Carpenter, clerk of the court at the Chester County Courthouse, and she will speak to you and see if you're eligible for the public defender. It does cost $40 to be screened for the public defender. You're also entitled to a trial by jury. You just sign that I tell you that, please. You should be right here. Okay, I'm not allowed to set bonds on these charges, so the circuit court judge will have to set the bond. Thank you.
Christopher Moore will spend the rest of his life in prison for killing Odell Williams. The case of Quincy Homer, who was sentenced to 23 years in prison, has been making headlines for nearly a decade. Homer was convicted of first-degree manslaughter for shooting and killing rapper Chinks, whose real name is Lionel Pickens Jr., while Chinks was sitting in his luxury car at a red light in 2015. Homer, who wore a face mask during his sentencing, had previously pled guilty. Chinks, who was married with 3 children, had his wife push for justice since his death. She spoke in court, as did Homer.
I express my condolences to the family and anyone else who was affected with what happened here. I won't believe there's words that can express the way I feel about what transpired here.
I was told I had 2 minutes to say goodbye. Holding his mother's hand, watching his lifeless body, praying and crying for him to wake up. A mother has to bury her son. At the age of 28, I have became a widow. My children, who were 15, 11, and 4, are now without a dad.
His wife became emotional in court, tearing up as she sat next to the man who had murdered her husband back in 2015. Additionally, on top of his 23-year sentence for the murder of Chinks, Quincy Homer is already serving time for armed robbery. Philip Bird, 22, from Camden, was involved in the carjacking and murder of Sunil Ratu and the assault on Radha Gediain in Atlantic City.
He caused great pain. He has earned his punishment, and I move for sentence. Thank you, Judge.
Mr. Bird, you have the right to appeal your conviction and the sentence I'll give you to the Appellate Division of the Superior Court. You understand your rights, sir?
Yes.
Before the court for sentencing is Philip Bird, following a negotiated plea to first-degree murder, calling for 47 years in state prison, subject to the No Early Release Act, concurrent to the prison sentence he is serving on a gun charge. He was sentenced to 47 years in prison.
A 23-year-old cold case involving a triple murder has been resolved. A judge sentenced 67-year-old Beverly Noe to 15 years in prison for the 1992 murders of 3 people. Noe reacted angrily to the media and hid her face as she left the courtroom.
Get away from me, you peeps.
It's a stark contrast from almost 2 years ago when Beverly Noe claimed in an interview that she didn't commit the murders.
I don't know how I can get anybody to understand that I really didn't. I'm not guilty of anything.
Beverly Noe is still not admitting to the crimes. She pleaded no contest to 3 counts of accessory to murder, and the original first-degree murder charges were downgraded as part of a plea deal.
It's okay, Bubba.
I just thank the Lord that,
Someone came forward.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because we didn't ever know. I could have went the rest of my life not knowing where my family was, and I am glad that this is coming to an end.
By pleading no contest, that's pretty much a given to me that you're saying, yes, I did it, and I'm willing to stand in front of you and take my punishment.
The emotions remain raw for the families of the victims: Wendy Camp, Lisa Krieger, and 6-year-old Cynthia Brino. The 3 went missing during a custody dispute and were found nearly 2 years ago in a grave on property that Beverly Noe's family once owned.
We'd all just love to sit down and just ask, why. But that'll never happen.
We got her to finally admit it on public record.
Son of a get out of here.
The family had hoped for a longer prison sentence, possibly life in prison, but they say this sentencing marks the end of a 23-year-long nightmare. Investigators believe multiple people were involved in the crime and expect more arrests. Notably, Grover Pruitt, Noe's brother, owned the property where the victims' bodies were discovered. He has been charged as an accessory and is due in court, though his health is deteriorating. Marjorie Dingle, the mother of Kenyon Simon, addressed the court during the sentencing of Al-Sharif Metz. Metz had pleaded guilty to an aggravated manslaughter charge.
You got kids too. You don't know the pain you go through when your child is doing this. I took my kids from New Jersey. I moved down south with my kids, South Carolina, my kids, when they were young. Get them away from the drugs and stuff that would be outside in the schoolyard stuff. When Keon graduated from high school, Keon came back to college. My oldest son came back to college. Keon was up here 6 years. Keon just turned 28, July the 5th. Birthday party, July the 5th, he turned 28 years old. Got shot July the 10th. Died August the 4th. Everything was going fine. That Thursday, I came up from South Carolina. That Thursday, that Monday, I went to custody to put him there to protect him because they want to move him out the hospital. I went that Thursday, they called me. When I went up there, he's breathing so hard. I told him if you don't do something, he's going cardiac arrest. Went back there. They asked me that I want to put him on life support. No, I didn't want my child living on life support. I didn't want them to perform no more CPR. If it was time for God to take him on. Don't put him on anything. And I thank God for taking him to a better life than the life that they live here in New Jersey. The crime and stuff up here is sad. In South Carolina, the way they kill people up here, death penalty there. They don't punish them enough here. They do crimes here, they pat them on the hand, they back on the street doing the same thing over and over. There's no system here for what they do. It's ridiculous the way they kill people up here. The crime is all over. Drugs is in South Carolina too. I live in a deep country, we're on 89 acres of deep country. We have crime there, but they nick their stuff in the butt there. There's gang. Everything they have here, they have in South Carolina, but they put a cap on it. It don't run like this. That's why I moved my kids to South Carolina when they were young. They choose to come up here to this city. And there's no justice in this city. Anytime somebody kills somebody, they only get 15 years, but they can go to get drug charges and do 25 and 30 years. It's stupid. It's not right. And it's going to keep going on because nothing's being done. Half of these cops right with them doing the same thing they doing. That's why they slap on the wrist and do what they do. They go to jail, they come right back out on the street.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm very sorry.
Al-Sharif Metz was sentenced to 25 years in prison for the aggravated manslaughter of Kenyon Simon. The court took into account the emotional impact on the victim's family during the sentencing. Adam Leroy Lane was sentenced for the stabbing death of a woman in her Hunterdon County home. This clip shows a moment from the sentencing.
The This is the matter of State versus Adam Lane. This defendant showed absolutely no mercy toward Monica Massaro when he brutally cut her throat, watched her die, and then desecrated her body. I ask that the court show no mercy towards the defendant now.
We don't know why a person who is a husband and a father suddenly commits these kind of acts.
Your Honor, the mother of the victim wished to have a statement read to the court.
Monica lit up every room and every heart. He should get down on his knees every day and pray that God has more mercy on his soul than he showed Monica.
You are sentenced to serve 50 years in the New Jersey State Prison.
He was sentenced to 50 years in state prison. When Shannon Miles walked into the Houston courtroom, it was so quiet that the only sound was the clinking of the shackles around his ankles and waist. The atmosphere was tense as several dozen sheriff's deputies, many of whom were colleagues of the slain officer, stared down the man accused of killing their fellow officer.
Unloaded the entire weapon into Deputy Goforth.
Prosecutors provided the most detailed account yet of how Shannon Miles allegedly ambushed Deputy Dylann Goforth. They described how, as Goforth was walking back to his patrol car at the pump, Miles approached and attacked him.
Runs up behind Deputy Goforth and puts a gun to the back of his head and shoots. Deputy Goforth hits the ground and then he continues to unload his gun repeatedly into the back of Deputy Goforth.
The prosecutor detailed how Shannon Miles fired all 15 rounds from his .40 caliber handgun before walking to his truck and driving away. A memorial of teddy bears and flowers now marks where he fell. Deputy Goforth frequently patrolled Brian McCullers' neighborhood, leading McCullers' team of volunteers to organize a vigil around the pump and a fundraiser for Goforth's wife and 2 children.
This is what he would want, is us looking after his family. I know that he was going off duty when all of this happened, and he was a man that was a family man, and the only thing on his mind was getting home and being with his...
Investigators reported that ballistics tests linked the shell casings from the crime scene to a handgun found in Shannon Miles' home garage. However, not much is known about the murder suspect, as Miles' family has not commented, and other relatives and friends have remained silent. The motive behind this shooting, described by investigators as cowardly and cold-blooded, remains unclear. The sheriff stated that Deputy Goforth was targeted simply because he wore a uniform.
This rhetoric has gotten out of control. We've heard Black Lives Matter, all lives matter. Well, cops' lives matter too. So why don't we just drop the qualifier and just say lives matter and take that to the bank?
Shannon Miles was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for the murder of Deputy Dylann Goforth. DeJuan Ingram was sentenced for the murder of Najee Montague before Superior Court Judge Siobhan Tier in Newark.
It affects anybody in this courtroom, not just because I knew him, because we wasn't best friends, but because however much time you give me, I gotta live with the rest of my life knowing that I'm being accused for murdering him when the true murder, the actual murderer is still possibly running the streets waiting to get. So I just ask that you consider that fact. And don't turn a blind eye to the things that these officers, like the process that these officers took, to get me in this courtroom sitting before you.
Deep down in my heart, I know DeJuan killed my son. Why? It doesn't matter. You did it. DeJuan gets to call his mother. DeJuan gets to pick up a pencil and a pencil and paper to write whoever. Son don't have that. I go to the cemetery every month because my son is around the corner from my house. I put flowers, I put teddy bears. I sit and I talk to a tombstone. It hurts to lose anyone. My baby was 21 years old. His birthday is the end of this month. And as I said, I just hope that DeJuan don't get a chance to ever have freedom again. Because DeJuan is an evil person. For you to hurt someone the way he hurt my son, you can't be a person with a right state of mind.
Dewan Ingram was sentenced to 30 years in prison for the murder of Najee Montague. On February 8, 2017, Brian Goldsby brutally assaulted and fatally shot Reagan Tokes, a 21-year-old student at Ohio University. He was soon apprehended. Despite their efforts to hide their crimes, criminals will eventually be found and brought to justice.
We've got cars going to 104. Okay. And all they could give us was the Scioto Grove Metro Park. So I'm not sure, if it's at the entrance. There is possibly a body. It's going to be, he said, possibly a female who is with an arm over the face.
Talk to you, man. You're being straight right now. Let's stay on that road. What is the?
We're getting, okay. So after Chase, after you leave Chase, where are you going next? And be truthful, where do you know? Okay. Did you get any money there?
What was wrong? Card wasn't working, or she? Was she putting her pen? I mean, it just rejected. She didn't have no money. What hunting did you go to? South of the Chase. Okay. And he went to Chase. Didn't work. Went to Huntington. Didn't work. Went back to Chase. Tried a different card. Right. $60 out. Then you decided to try the other card again, right? And didn't work. From there, we leave Chase. You want me? I'll throw a time reference out because we know what time. It was 10:33. Chase. Yeah, the second time. And y'all left together. Where'd y'all go from there? And then there's a gas up to 11:40 when I got you at Turkey Hill getting gas in Grove City. Is that right? Did you use a card? I did. She did? Did she fill it up? Okay. So now we're Chase, Grove City. It's only a 15-minute drive. Where's that whole hour go, man? I gave you something. Y'all not telling me nothing. Y'all not giving me. I just gave you Turkey Hill. You didn't give me nothing after. I said that if you tell me, I'll let you keep. I'm just gonna guess. Yeah, I got you. Yeah.
Well, some of the stuff in here is written. We don't have. I didn't make photographs of Turkey Hill.
A bunch of pictures.
I do, but they're of different things. Okay.
Okay, can I see the pictures and I can just tell you what's going on? Well, I don't know why you got in there.
He doesn't even know what I have in
there. To be honest with you, I've been looking for you and all that, and I haven't been part of that part.
We have. I'm not going to show you that stuff yet. I'm going to show you everything else I have here.
That's the same stuff you were showing.
I know. I'm saying there's not much in here. You need to tell me where you drive around and where you go next. This is your car.
This is just.
Yeah, Tony, he ain't got that much there, man. You're all worried about that packet.
I'm not too. I'm talking about. This is pretty much stuff. This is the only thing I haven't seen is a picture of a car. Right. I mean.
Well, let's get there. I want to get there, man. All right.
Jesus.
I need to know about when you went to the park.
I took the car and left.
No, you didn't.
It was like that.
You went to the Cider Grove Park.
Took her for a car and left.
Did you drop her off there?
Yes, I dropped her off there and left.
So you just dropped her off there. Yeah. Then where did you go?
Up north. Well, yeah, north, west, north.
No, you didn't.
I did go to west side.
You stopped somewhere.
Yeah, that's west side. West side.
West side. I'm sorry. I thought you said something else in here.
Country.
I'm not trying. I thought you said something else.
Yeah, he went to west side.
West side. Where'd you stop at there?
My dude's apartment.
You stopped at a store too.
That was
Didn't get a chance to say to me that big deal.
What store did you stop at?
I don't know the name of that gas station.
Okay.
If I said, would you not? Speedway.
Yo.
Speedway? Alright, that's you. So these other pictures are man, you at Speedway. What'd you buy at Speedway?
And a gallon of gas.
That's what this is? Showing what you bought? Gas can? Alright, so the gas can you bought? Spout. That's over on Oakwood Avenue. And there's just another picture of the garbage. There's the gas can. As far as pictures go, that's what I have.
That's everything you have.
That's not everything I have.
That's what I'm saying.
Photographs. No, listen.
Listen to me.
Photographs. That's the photographs that I have. We have other stuff too.
Let's back up.
Just notes.
From there, you go to the park. And you do what? What happened? You pull in there? Was the gate open, shut? What was going on in that park?
The actual grounds was shut.
Right. So you pull in the entrance?
Yeah.
Okay. And when you left there, you got her out of the car. You get in the driver's seat. From there.
Yes.
All right.
You ever take your clothes off?
No.
Alright.
No.
She takes them off then herself?
I didn't have her do it. I didn't have her take the clothes off. I did not have her take the clothes off.
Was somebody with you?
No.
Okay.
I didn't have her take the clothes off.
The prosecution unveiled the true narrative of the alleged crime in court. When Brian's heinous behavior was exposed, everyone was taken aback.
This case began a little over a year ago, February 9th. That was a Thursday, little afternoon. And it began when Richard Bonner, who had been to a nearby copying shop, forgot some of the items he had copied and left behind. So he pulled into the entrance of the Scioto Grove Metro Park at 5172 Jackson Pike here in Franklin County, just outside of Grove City and just off of Stringtown Road. And as he pulled in to turn around to go back to that copy shop to retrieve some of the things he thought he had left behind, he looked over to the side, and it was a cold day, very cold day, and there was a little bit of snow cover, but he thought he saw what he told the police later was a mannequin laying about 15 yards off the entrance. As he stopped his car and went a little closer, however, he saw the nude body of a young woman, their arm across her face like this, and he noticed on her face. And he immediately knew then that it was not a mannequin. He immediately went to his car, called 911. The medics responded, found a young woman who later was identified, and you'll hear about how that was done, as Reagan Tokes, 21-year-old, Ohio State University student from the Toledo area, psychology major who was looking to graduate in May of last year, who never made that graduation because she was executed point blank in the head, the hand. Now, what did the police do next? They didn't know it was Reagan Tokes, so they commenced their investigation. Around the same time, the friends and family of Reagan Tokes were looking for her because she had left Wednesday, February 8th, the day before, around 5 o'clock from her apartment up in the university area on Chittenden. She had left to go to work. She worked part-time at a bar and a restaurant in the short north known as Bodega at 3rd and High School, only about a mile south of where she lived. And she had worked on Wednesday night, had worked, had dinner there, talked with some friends, and left the bar at 9:43. And we have surveillance video at the bar showing her leaving the bar. And she never made it home. She was not seen from or heard from until Mr. Bonner found her body the next day. Her friends and family have been calling her cell phone. For a while they thought, gee, maybe she lost the charge. It's kicking to voicemail. It's no answer. She's not answering. She had class that morning. They thought maybe she went to class first. But eventually they filed a missing person report with the Columbus police, and some of her roommates, who you'll hear from, went to Bodega to say, has anyone seen or heard from Reagan? And over the next hours, they frantically tried to find out where she might be. They filed a missing person report, and around that time, Mr. Bonner was finding the body. And the Grove City Police Department and the Columbus Police Department exchanged information, and Ms. Tokes had a small circular tattoo here in her rib cage area and was wearing jewelry. The only thing left on her body, she's completely nude, left out in that cold weather, shot twice. And it was through that tattoo and a roommate who identified her jewelry that the Grove City Police, in trying to identify Jane Doe, determined it was Reagan Tokes. Well, they put, since her car was missing, a stolen missing report out on the car. Silver Acura, license plate FGR 8547. Every police agency here in Franklin County was looking for that car, and eventually found it. And that car had in the back seat a cigarette butt, and on the ground next to that car, which was found outside of 708 Oakwood here in Franklin County, Ohio.
Everyone was startled when Brian's mask began to slip in court.
At that point in time, they said, let's find Mr. Goolsby, and they took that gas can, however, and determined where it had been purchased at a speedway down a Brown Road, only about a mile west of the courthouse here. They went there and they got some video surveillance from there. And the picture of the person who bought the gas can that was in Miss Tokes' trunk is a picture of Brian Lee Goolsby. So he's in her car at the gas station. They can tell when, shortly after midnight at 12:21 a.m. And they said, well, let's see if we can find Mr. Goolsby. So they went looking for him. They did find him. And they were able to find out that he was under supervision with the Ohio Adult Parole Authority, and that he had an ankle monitor around his ankle that actually tracked him each and every step of that night of terror for Reagan Tokes. And we will bring an expert in here who will explain a GPS system to you. And this gives you an overview of what they'll say. The university area, there where Bodega is located, where the Chase Bank at 833 South High Street, again a couple blocks out to this courthouse, and at 11:57 p.m. track Mr. Goolsby right there to Scioto Metro Park. Steps, feet away from where Reagan Tokes' body was found 14 hours later. Now, what the Grove City Police Department did as the chief investigative agency on this case, they said, let's find out about all the information from Ms. Tokes. Does she have a credit card? Does she have a debit card? What bank? Let's check the banks. They went to the Chase Bank, and there's a video surveillance at 10:32 p.m. Remember, Ms. Tokes left Bodega 9:43. 9:45, guess what? At 3rd and Mount Pleasant, there's Mr. Goolsby. As she's going to where she parked her car. We can track him at 9:45 p.m. at the precise place where she parked her car. And at gunpoint was forced into the car by him. And this device tracks not only location but speed, And within a couple minutes after 9:45, he's gone from walking about 3 miles an hour to moving at 25 miles an hour on 2nd Avenue after he kidnapped her and told her to drive to the bank where there was this attempt to withdraw, which was denied, $200, because there are limits on withdrawals at ATMs, as we all know. Eventually, $60 was withdrawn by Reagan Toast, and it had the surveillance video of her at the drive-thru. You can see a shadow figure in the car with her. You can't identify who it is. But guess what again? At 10:32 p.m., that's exactly where Brian Lee Goldsby is, while she's withdrawing $60 from the bank. Later on, there's an effort to withdraw money from that location and a Huntington Bank a short distance from there.
What the state just told you, it's their story. What they think the evidence will be. You've heard it over and over. It's not evidence. And that's the nice thing about our system of criminal justice, is what they say or what we say the evidence will be. It's not about that. It's about what the evidence actually is, as found by the 12 of you when you deliberate. Unless they present proof beyond a reasonable doubt from the witness stand or from documents submitted into evidence, everything they just said, your verdict must be not guilty unless they prove it. We spoke a lot in voir dire about the presumption of innocence and proof beyond a reasonable doubt, and how important it is to hold the state to their burden of proof. They're not just words on a page, but important backbones of our criminal justice system. It's not like a civil case where you just have to tip the scales by ever so slight a margin. A presumption means that despite what Mr. O'Brien just told you about what they believe the evidence will show, you have to presume the opposite. You have to presume Mr. Goldsby is innocent unless they prove proof beyond a reasonable doubt. No evidence has been presented yet, so the presumption has not been overcome. And when presented, it must be worthy of belief from you. As you listen to the evidence, listen to both the direct exam and the cross-exam. Ask yourselves with each witness, with each document, does it lend itself to reasonable doubt as to any element of any charge? Would I be willing to rely and act upon it in the most important of my affairs? Decisions like what course of treatment to have for a life-threatening illness, what school your child should go to, and as the judge said, decision on whether to put somebody that you love in a nursing home. Those are important decisions you make in your daily lives. That's the quality of evidence they must present to you. The presumption of innocence remains with Mr. Goldsby throughout this trial. There will be evidence presented by the state in this trial that we may not contest. We may not ask every witness a bunch of questions. That still does not relieve the state of their burden of proof in this case. We do not have to present any witnesses on our own, and we don't plan to present any at this point in time. We have no burden of proof whatsoever. We do not believe the state can overcome their presumption of innocence and prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Pay careful attention to the evidence submitted or lack thereof as to whether the homicide was committed with prior calculation and design or pre-planning, an element the state must prove to you, and which the court will define to you later. Pay careful attention to the evidence of when the death occurred in relation to when the alleged kidnapping, robbery, and rape occurred. How much time passed in between? The state discussed video evidence in terms of Mr. Goldsby's statements. Does the video answer questions about the murder itself or raise more questions? Is the state relying on Mr. Goldsby to prove their case? What elements of the charges are missing in the videotape, and can the state prove it with other evidence? You will see that Mr. Goldsby did not tell the complete truth in his interrogation with the officers. Few suspects do. But he's not on trial for not telling a complete statement. He did agree to talk to the police for approximately 6 hours. See, when it comes to closing argument, whether the state asks you to believe Brian Goldsby and what his statements prove or don't prove. Consider what he did accurately provide to law enforcement. The state also discusses GPS evidence. It gives you approximate locations, but it's nothing more than a set of location points. It does not tell you who was doing what at that time. It does not supply mental elements, the state of mind. See if there's any evidence of the mental elements presented during this trial by the state. The evidence will show that Reagan Totes was driving the vehicle throughout this whole ordeal, and that she was the one that got out at the Turkey Hill gas station and pumped gas. No evidence that any suspect was outside the vehicle at that time while she pumped the gas in full view of other people. The evidence will also show that she was driving the vehicle when the car went through the bank drive-thrus. Consider the motives of some of the witnesses who may come in and testify, and whether they have bias. You will receive an instruction of law relating to the credibility of witnesses, which says one of the things you can use in your determining the credibility of whether the person has bias.
No matter how much one regrets, a deed once done can never be undone. After considering the seriousness of the crime and all the evidence presented in court, the judge assigned a fair punishment.
On count one, the aggravated murder, the court's going to impose life without parole. I'm going to impose an 11-year sentence on the repeat violent offender specification consecutive to the life without parole. I'm going to impose 3 years on the firearm specification consecutive. That's a total of 14 years consecutive to the life without parole. On the kidnapping, the court's going to impose life without parole. That's what the law calls for because of your motivation specification, violent predator specification, and the repeat violent offender specification. I'm going to add 3 years consecutive to that for the gun specification. That's the kidnapping count. The ag murder count 3 merges. Count 4, the aggravated robbery. Court's going to impose 10 years plus 3 years, 10 years on the felony 2 ag robbery, 3 years consecutive to that on the gun specification for a total of 14 years. That's consecutive to the sentences that I'm going to impose on counts 2 and the remainder of the counts that call for a term of prison. Count 5, aggravated murder, merges. Count 6, this also calls for life without parole because of the violent predator specification, the repeat violent offender specification. So I'm imposing life without parole. You're also going to be required, and you've signed the document because of the, well, I believe it's not only the kidnapping, but the required to register. Even though you'll never get out of prison, the law requires I engage in these formalities and notify you that if you were ever to get out of prison, which you're not going to get out of prison, you would have to register for your lifetime in person every 90 days in the county in which you reside. That isn't going to happen with the law. Again, if I don't comply with it, somebody can argue that I didn't comply with the law. You've signed it. You've been notified of your obligations. If counsel will come up and let the record reflect that the green copy is being handed, which the law again requires. Let the record reflect Mr. Goldsby not only signed it, he's been handed the notification by his counsel. The aggravated murder count 7 merges. Tampering with evidence, 3-year maximum prison sentence consecutive to the other sentences. Count 9, 3-year prison sentence consecutive to the other sentences. The weapons under disability, 3 years consecutive to the other sentences. The law requires I make findings before I'm allowed to consecutively sentence you. In order to consecutively sentence you, the law requires I make these findings under 29, 14 C4. Consecutive sentences, in my opinion, even though he got life without parole, this case will no doubt be appealed. Issues will be raised on appeal. Lawyers feel like they have a legal obligation to do that. I'm going to notify you of your appeal rights here shortly. So this is why I'm adding years on and making these findings. The consecutive sentences are necessary to protect the public, to punish you.
Karen's tears failed to sway the judge, and her sentence was delivered amidst the silence of the courtroom.
Ma'am, were you operating a motor vehicle in the city of Taylor back in February 9th of 2014?
Yes.
And while you were operating that motor vehicle, ma'am, had you had something to drink, some alcohol?
Yes.
Did that alcohol affect your ability to drive that car?
Yes.
Okay, how so? Were you swerving? Were you, how so?
I mean, I'm sure I was swerving. Typical reactions to alcohol, swerving.
Okay.
I'm sure of. I'm so sorry. I don't.
No, it's okay. Look, I'm just at Ms. Hook. I just have to get a factual basis. So that's why I'm asking. If the police report indicated you were swerving through lanes, would you dispute that or would you agree with it?
I probably wouldn't dispute it. Unfortunately, this did happen quite a while ago, and I was impaired, so my memory obviously is not going to be 1,000%.
But does that sound accurate to you?
Yeah, I probably, yeah, if I was intoxicated, I was most likely swerving. And then I stayed stopped at a light and didn't move.
Okay. Mr. Gazicki, are you satisfied with that factual basis?
Yes, Your Honor, and the additional fact that blood alcohol was 0.168 on a lab report from the state police.
And you're stipulating to that?
We're stipulating today, Your Honor.
All right, so I'll accept the plea as knowing and voluntarily given. Ms. Hook, you've been gone for a decade. You've been gone for 10 years on this.
Yeah, like I was explaining to my attorney, I've been in trouble before. I thought he had given me the stipulations on what I was supposed to do. I brought them up. It was just, it was a big mistake on my part. I thought I did what I was supposed to do.
Okay,
I did.
Ms. Hook.
Yes,
Ms. Hook.
Yes, Your Honor.
Have you picked up any new cases?
No, there's,
Is that your only criminal case that you've had?
There was within a 1 month time span, I had this charge and another one. They were both the same. I was dealing with a bad situation with my roommate, and I made bad choices for a couple months.
I'm just asking, did you go to court on that case?
Yes, yep, that was done, complete, everything is done, closed out, everything.
All right, and you haven't had any trouble in a decade?
Nope, I haven't drank in 9 years. I have a 5-year-old with cerebral palsy who I'm his primary caregiver. Other than taking care of him, I really don't do anything.
All right, ma'am, it's been a decade. I see nothing on your criminal history whatsoever since the date of this offense, which leads me to believe that you do not need probation. Because it's been a decade and you've not continued any criminal acts whatsoever. So I'm going to do an immediate sentence on this.
Okay.
All right, you have a fine of $400, court costs of $200, state assessment of $50, and a crime victim's rights fee of $75. Those last two are mandated by the state of Michigan, okay? So that brings your total on this to $725, and you just posted a bond, is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, so we'll apply the bond.
Awesome, thank you.
And you'll still owe this court about $50. You'll get notice of what you owe in the mail, and you could just pay that within the next 2 weeks, okay?
Okay, absolutely.
All right, you're all set, ma'am.
So all I have to do is pay the rest of that fine? I don't have to do anything else?
Do you want me to give you more?
No, ma'am, no,
It's been a decade, Ms. Hook. I have to use my discretion. You haven't had any trouble in 10 years. I don't want to reward you for absconding for a decade, but at the same time, I have to, I'm looking at what's in front of me, and the fact you've not had a single misdemeanor violation, felony violation, traffic violation in a decade leads me to believe that you learned something from this, even if you didn't come to court. So you are going to pay that fine, and you are all set. You're done, okay?
Thank you so much, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Hook, be good. All right, you're all set.
I absolutely 1000% will.
All right, good deal. You're all set, ma'am.
Thank you so much. You have a great day.
We also have your treatment court. You were on bond here, and there are some violations or allegations of violation.
Crime can't stay hidden forever, no matter how hard one tries.
Whatever you say. Whatever you say. Y'all got all this evidence, but y'all got a phone.
We got all this evidence, and like I said, it's gonna make you look really bad.
You don't have a phone. Y'all not telling me how she died. Y'all don't know how she died. I'm like, man, come on.
Yeah, you know she died.
Come on, man.
That's why I've asked you about a gun. You know that.
Okay.
And you also know that when we searched your house, we found the same type of bullets that we found at the scene.
Okay, and she has it. If y'all do y'all job, it's in a box.
Why would you tell me? Why would you tell me? Why would you tell me that you didn't own a gun when I find bullets in your house?
Okay, because
and then you have a witness that says, "Yeah,
because her kids was there. She gave it to me when her kids was there.
No. Bullets in your house.
Yes, she gave me when her kids was there.
Okay, so
I got and the bullets. When the kids left, she got to go back.
When did the kids leave?
Right. Because she went took them to Texas.
She took them to Texas while you were still at the house.
Yes.
Right. So there's no reason for you to have bullets unless you own it. And there's also you wouldn't have bullets to a gun that your close personal friend who's been sticking up for you this whole time said he saw a gun in your house.
Yes, I told him that. I said, yes, it's under. He knew who it was.
You say you told him that, but when I asked you in our original interview, you said, I don't own a gun. I haven't touched a gun since I was a teenager.
You asked me, have I owned a gun? I said, no.
I said, when's the last time you held a gun? And you know what you said?
What?
A teenager. And you know how I know that's not true? Because remember we tested you for GSR?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You may have cleaned up, but you tested 2 out of 3 particles for GSR. You don't believe that? You think I'm lying? I'm lying that you tested for 2 out of 3 particles of GSR on your hands. I'm lying about that.
I don't know you got no gunpowder on that hands.
Well, I'll tell you how. You that woman. And now you're going to sit in this room and you're going to cross your arms and you're not even going to be a man and you're not even going to look at me and let me at least be able to go back to her family and tell them what happened to her. That's what you're going to do.
Well, her family telling me she got somebody slit her throat.
No, her family knows you killed her, and they're probably just telling you that to keep you at arm's length. But I've talked to her family. I've talked to her family at least once a week, if not more.
Yeah,
so I know what they think.
I talked to her son.
I know what they think. Okay, I'm telling you that right now. I know what they think.
Okay.
Her twin brother Avery, he's got my phone number on his phone, not my city phone, not the phone number you had, not my desk phone number, but my personal cell. Okay. So I'm telling you right now, they think you're a cold-blooded killer.
Well, everybody think that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the jury's going to think that too.
Okay. Well,
that's going to be your ass.
Take it in front of the jury.
You can, Danny, and then you can see you're going to sit there and act like you don't give 2 shits.
I'm not saying I don't give 2 shits because I know.
How many times you call me?
For what?
To check on this case.
None. Because I got somebody that's telling me Do not say nothing.
Well, I'm telling you right now, that's not normal behavior.
That's why
if somebody killed my fiance or my wife or my girlfriend or my sister,
why you think I'm talking to her son?
I don't know. I also know you try to pin her son on some phone calls and harassing phone calls. You try to put that on him.
I'm trying to put that on him.
You told her he was the one that was sending her harassing phone calls.
Okay, and someone from Roland was.
I talked to the PI. You know who you thinks was doing it?
I already know. Talking about Mr. Brown.
I sat and interviewed Mr. Brown for some time. He showed me a bunch of paperwork, a bunch of stuff he did, and he told me straight up, you were the one doing it.
Okay, so if I was doing it, why did you press charges on me then? Why she go down there and drop her?
I wish they would have pressed charges on you the first time you beat her up, because then she'd still be alive.
Yeah, that's why they press charges on me then, because they know I ain't do nothing.
And what, at the time you were in the Navy with Miss Washington, what was your relationship at that time with her in terms of supervision?
I was a senior enlisted leader of the ship up until June, and then, like I said, I transitioned to the base after that.
Was she under your command?
Yes, sir.
How long did you know her approximately?
A little over 3 years, sir.
Thank you. And did you prepare a victim impact statement you'd like to leave the judge for?
Yes, sir.
And certainly you may do so this time.
Morning, Your Honor.
No.
Who was Andrea Washington? To her family, she was a mother, daughter, sister, and aunt. To us, her Navy family, she was a shipmate, sister in arms, to her junior sailors, Mama Wash, and to us, a Navy chief. Andrea selflessly served her country while caring for her 3 boys. Her boys came first. She always ensured they were taken care of every time we had to go to sea or deploy. She deployed into harm's way, into areas where they would rather see us dead simply for the freedoms we defended. She did this time and time again to ensure her boys had a better life and were able to live in safety. As sailors, we are trained and prepared for losing our shipmates due to illness, injury, and even suicide. But in my 30 years of service, I was never prepared for the call I received on the night of 16 September 2018, where my chief was screaming and crying, "They killed her. Terry, do you hear me? They killed Andrea." This is a call that haunts me to this day. We didn't know what to do next. What do you say to the sailors whose cherished chief was just murdered? The sailors who served with Andrea were robbed of seeing their chief for the first time that Monday morning. The best day of any newly penned chief petty officer. The loss of Chief Andrea Washington is felt Navy-wide. Many of us question ourselves. Did we miss a sign? Did we miss a call for help? We have chiefs who had to see her laying there in her own blood. We suffer from nightmares, insecurities, and have trust issues. For 4.5 years, we have gathered here at the Duval Courthouse waiting for something, anything that can make this murder make sense to us. Why? What happened that night that caused us to lose our chief? For 4.5 years, we have heard that he, Danny Beard, denied doing this. Yet not once did he acknowledge Andrea, the human that once loved him, the person who has given him a better life. Andrea wrote her goals inside of her will book, the book sailors carried that contained taskers, notes, etc. Inside the cover she wrote, 1, to be a better person. 2, go to church more. 3, qualify EL. 4, make chief. Andrea accomplished all of this, and Danny Beard robbed her of her next step into her future. He robbed her sailors of a great chief, and he robbed the Navy chief's mess of a born leader and mentor. He robbed 3 young boys of their mother. For what? So what's next? Our Navy family will continue to support each other and continue to heal. We will always have a missing link in our anchor chain, but we have faith knowing that she, our chief, Andrea Washington, is watching over us, and we will never forget.
Danny Beard was sentenced to 30 years in prison. Big thanks to our viewers for joining the courtroom journey with us. Your interest in the stories of justice is what keeps our channel alive.